welcome to the 2019 Trilogy Challenge Pro Clinic. My name is Chris Villa. I'm going to be hosting the clinic today. This clinic is sponsored by the Fort Washington Disc Golf Club and by Westside Discs. Just want to give a huge thank you and shout out to the Fort Washington Club. Most of you guys are probably aware there has technically been a disc golf course on this property for 20 years, but only in like the last 2 years has a die-hard group of dedicated disc golfers installed legitimate baskets, legitimate tee pads, put in a great layout, cleared brush, cleared fairways, picked up trash, and made this a course we can all enjoy. So in a very short period of time, there's been a tremendous amount of progress, and I just want to thank everybody involved in that. It's a course we can all now really enjoy and help grow the sport. What we're going to do today for the clinic is I'm going to be demonstrating first how to throw the Vandal. I'm going to show you guys what I use the Vandal for. I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks on how to throw fairway drivers in general. I'm also going to be demonstrating how to throw approach shots. I'm going to use the Gatekeeper for that. I think that's a great approach disc. And then we're going to head down to the basket down there, and I'm going to teach you guys a putting game, and I'll show you some putting techniques using the Keystone. I have actually a couple games I'm going to teach you guys today that you can use in your own practice to help sharpen your skills. We have some prizes to give away for anybody who wants to participate in the putting game at the end. Westside Discs has supplied us with a lot of discs and towels and shirts and hats and sunglasses, so thank you to Westside for that. As far as myself, my name is Chris. I have met and played with many of you guys before. If we haven't met and played before, I'll give you just a quick background about my disc golf career. I do live locally, close here to Fort Washington, and I play this course pretty regularly. I also play in a lot of competitive tournaments. I've been playing competitive disc golf since 2013. So this is my 7th year playing tournaments in the MPO division. I've played in over 100 tournaments in 7 years. I have 23 MPO wins. I'm currently rated 10.04. I'm ranked 91st in the world, and I'm sponsored by Westside Discs and by Heiser Flip. The reason I wanted to come and participate in this clinic for you guys today is because I think this is the best 3 discs that have ever been offered in the Trilogy Challenge. The Vandal, the Gatekeeper, and the Keystone. These are all discs that can be thrown very straight, believe me. This wind doesn't make it too easy today, but these are discs that can all be thrown very straight, and you can throw them hard and they go straight. When you can learn how to throw a disc straight, you can then manipulate the flight of that disc to make it turn left or turn right. And I find these 3 molds to be really versatile. I can achieve a lot of different flights out of them. And the challenge with the Trilogy Challenge is you come and you sign up, you get your 3 discs, and off you go. And there's really nobody to demonstrate to you what these discs do, or how to throw them, or kind of what they're capable of. I've been fortunate to be able to work with these discs for a couple months now. So my goal today is I'm going to show you some Vandal shots, kind of show you what that disc is capable of when you throw it correctly. And we'll do the same with the Gatekeeper and the Keystone as well. So I'm going to start with the Vandal. The Vandal is a 9-speed fairway driver. I find the Vandal to be a very understable disc when thrown with high speed, but a slightly stable disc when thrown with slow speed. So I love discs like that because you can really manipulate them. When I'm throwing a fairway driver, and fairway drivers, we're talking about discs that are in the speed 7, 8, and 9 class. 7, 8, and 9 discs can be thrown just as far, if not farther, than your 13 and 14 speed discs. But for me to achieve that type of distance with a fairway driver, I have to get all my biggest muscles in my body involved and engaged in throwing the disc. So for me, that's my butt, my hips, and my core. So I'll show you how I engage those muscles to help me throw a fairway driver as far as possible. But the first thing I start with is my grip. So when I'm throwing a fairway driver like the Vandal, I like to use a power grip. I'm sure many of you guys use that. Power grip means 4 fingers all tucked underneath the rim, like that. Most importantly is my index finger is tucked underneath that rim. That allows me to create no resistance, so at the point of release, when I open my hand, that fairway driver can come out and maximize as much spin as possible and get as much distance as possible. If I were throwing my fairway driver with my index finger on the rim like that, or maybe even just a little bit on the rim there, at the point of release, the disc has to come off that finger, and that's just creating resistance, it's minimizing the spin. So the power grip helps to achieve the least amount of resistance. I like to have a firm grip on my disc when I'm throwing a fairway driver. If I really squeeze my hand, the tips of my fingers will turn white. I don't want to be squeezing my hand that hard. But I want it to be firm enough that nobody could pull it out. And I like the disc to be really firm in the meat pocket of my hand. So once I have my power grip set up on my fairway driver, for me, if I were to hold this disc out straight in front of me when I have my power grip engaged and I get that disc completely parallel with the ground, I have to tilt my wrist slightly forward to achieve that. For me, that's just how I know I have the grip that I'm comfortable with. I am a right-handed backhand thrower. So the techniques I'm going to be sharing with you guys today are all based on that right-handed backhand. If you're a lefty, yeah, you're a little weird, but it's,
Come on, man.
everything applies. We have some lefties.
Bob, he's telling the truth.
Everything applies just a little bit backwards. And by the way, I'm not here to change what you guys do or tell you how to throw or not to throw. I'm just going to share with you guys what works for me. And if there's a tidbit or two you can take with you to improve your skills, then I think that's great. So once I have my power grip set on my fairway driver, now I want to prepare for the throw. And like I said, I want to engage the biggest muscles in my body. And the way that I engage my core muscles is by using my feet. And the position of my feet are going to determine whether I do or don't engage these big muscles in the throw. I achieve that by using a 4-step X step. And the way that that works for me, step 1 is my left foot, step 2 is my right foot, and steps 1 and 2 are designed to help me start propelling myself forward down the tee-pad toward my target. At this point, step 1 and step 2, my core muscles really aren't engaged yet. There's only so much strength that I can kind of pull out of these core muscles just moving from left to right. So the third step is where I'm going to start to really load these muscles. So step 1 is left, step 2 is right. My third step is going to come behind my right foot and I'm going to do my reach back. So at this point, I'm turning my core and my shoulders are now facing my target. And it's just like loading a spring or pulling a rubber band back. I'm getting these muscles ready to explode on step number 3. Now in step number 4, this is where I see a lot of newer players especially maybe not achieve maximum distance, because I'm going to do step 1, step 2, step 3 is where I do my reach back, step 4, my right foot is going to come forward. But on step 4, my right foot is not going to land right here flush with my right shoulder. I want my right foot on the 4th step to come out far in front of my body. And you have to practice the timing to get the timing right. I don't want it to be so far out, but I want to get it beyond my right shoulder. And the reason I want the 4th step to be a forward step is because on the 3rd step, when I'm reaching back, this distance between as far back as I can reach the disc right here to the 4th step where I'm releasing right here, that distance from reach back to release, I want that distance to be as long as possible for me. Because when I'm throwing and I'm reaching back on step 3, now the disc is coming forward on that straight plane and it's gaining speed as it moves forward. The longer it's on that plane, the more speed it's going to gain, and then the more spin it's going to have when I release. It's kind of like a fishing rod. The longer your rod, the farther you can cast. So I want my fishing rod, my distance from reach back to release, I want my fishing rod to be as long as possible so I can cast my Vandal as far as possible. So on the 4th step, where I'm stepping forward and I'm bringing my disc straight across on that straight plane for release, I want to make sure I have a good follow through. And I'm sure you've heard this before. It's one of the most important steps in determining where your disc is going to go. Before I throw my shot, I'm determining what flight and what angle I want my disc to take. So for example, if I'm going to throw a hyzer shot, I know that on the 3rd step, when I do my reach back, I want my shoulders to be slightly over my disc. I want my disc to be slightly low, a little bit lower than my chest. And I want the disc to leave my hand and hold that hyzer angle and finish left. To achieve that, I want to make sure I'm doing a follow through that matches that plane. So with my right arm, when I'm releasing on step 4, the work is not done by my right arm as soon as I release. You don't see anybody throw like this. When you release, the work still has to continue because your right arm has to follow through. The angle of that follow through is going to determine the angle that the disc will hold. So for me as a right-handed backhand thrower, if I'm throwing a hyzer shot and I release right here, I want my right arm to continue on that plane and my right arm is going to end up higher than my right shoulder if I'm throwing a hyzer. If I'm throwing an anhyzer, on the third step, I'm going to be leaning back just a little bit. And on step 4, when I plant and I bring my arm forward, I'm going to release, and my right arm is going to end up kind of down by my hip. So it's important to maintain that same plane after release of your follow-through for your throwing arm. We all have that friend who will throw with a hyzer, but as soon as he releases, his right arm ends up down here, and what happens to his disc? You know what happens to Richard's disc? It just goes to the right every time. You know it's going to go to the right as soon as it comes out of his hand. Because he's throwing with hyzer, and then his arm is coming down by his hip. So I want to match that plane. Now for a disc like the Vandal, which I use for straight shots, I'm going to actually throw this disc straight across my chest, and the wind is going to be a little tricky today. I'm going to put a little bit more hyzer on it than usual. But generally, if I'm throwing this straight and flat, my follow-through is going to be in line with my shoulder. So it's not going to be real high like a hyzer. It's not going to come down like an anhyzer. It's just going to be straight through. So I'm going to throw a couple shots with the Vandal. I'm going to demonstrate how I use my power grip, how I use my X step, gauge my core muscles, how I'm using my 4-step to shift my weight, my release, and I'm going to hold and maintain that follow-through with my throwing arm. My wife Dana, by the way, is going to be recording some of these shots so we can share and promote the Trilogy Challenge on social media. Dynamic Discs Vandal is the driver of this year's Trilogy Challenge. Speed 9, glide 5. I like the Vandal for straight 350 foot or shots. Check out trilogychallenge.com to find the event near you. And on the PT stand.
That was my disc.
Throw another one. Yeah, we're going to do that one more time.
Chris, did you hit your car?
I hit a silver PT Cruiser. I don't know whose that is. Stand in front of me, we'll do it from the beginning again. So I'm just going to do one more the same way. I'm going to try to throw this one a little bit lower. Dynamic Discs Vandal is the driver in this year's Trilogy Challenge. The Speed 9, glide 5. I like the Vandal for straight shots. Check out trilogychallenge.com to find the event near you. Shake your hand.
Look at that thing.
Get in there.
God. My God.
That one had Lee's name on it, and we're not finding it. So, with today's wind, throwing that disc a little flat, it's turning to the right. So I'm going to try one and put a more severe hyzer angle on it, and I want to make sure I follow through. So on step 4, by the way, when you're doing your step 3 and your reach back, step 4, you're planting your foot out in front of your body. You want to land on the ball of your foot and have your heel turned a little bit toward your target. As you come through on that straight line, you want to be pivoting on your foot. You can either do it on the ball of your foot or on your heel. I don't think there's really a right or wrong way. You will see a lot of the farthest throwers in the world pivot on the heel, but do what's comfortable for you. That's the lead. All right. I'm going to do one with a little bit of a hyzer angle, and hyzer angle. I'm going to use a little bit more of a stable disc. So for fairway drivers, if you like the feel of the Vandal, you like the rim size and that little bit of a dome to it, but for you, if you find it's a little too understable, or maybe it's turning and not coming back, I'd recommend maybe trying something like a Westside Longbowman or a Westside Ati, which are similar speed discs, just a little bit more stable. If you find that it's a little bit too stable for you, or maybe it just kind of holds that left hyzer, it never really gets a flex to it, doesn't get maximum distance, maybe you want to try a 9-speed that has a little bit less stability, I'd recommend a Westside Stag or a Westside Hatchet. So I'm going to throw something a little bit more stable and throw it on an anhyzer. This is a Westside Ati, which is a 9-speed that's more stable. So with this shot, I'm going to have a higher anhyzer angle and a lower follow through. But my grip and my X step are all going to be the same. Get in.
In a cage. An Aussie.
Westside Ati.
What plastic was that?
That one's a tournament Ati. So next, we are going to move a little bit down the fairway, and I'm going to throw some gatekeepers and talk about approach shot. Approach. I'm going to set up a little tee area. So when we're talking about approach shots, we're talking about our goal is to land close enough to the basket for a nice easy putt. When I'm throwing an approach shot, I love the Gatekeeper. I think it's a really good disc for this type of shot. The grip for me is the same. I throw a mid-range on approach shots with the same power grip I use for my fairway drivers. Except here's one thing I do differently. No X-step. This might be a little different for you guys. It may not work for you guys, but if it's something that you want to try, I think it could pay off for you. I throw all my approach shots from a standstill. For me, the X-step is just helping me gain a little bit of extra distance out of my fairway and my distance drivers. Now, if I'm throwing to this practice basket, the black and orange flowers basket, from this distance, I don't need to X-step. If you feel comfortable in your game doing a little walk-up or a little X-step for an approach shot at this distance, stick with what's comfortable for you. But for me, I'm strictly standstill. The reason I'm standstill is because there are times that your approach shot, you cannot do a walk-up, you can't do a run-up, you can't do an X-step. Maybe it's rainy, maybe it's muddy, maybe it's Pennsylvania, maybe you're at Nockamixon, maybe you're at Fort Washington, but when you're in the rough, or you're in a rut, or there's a boulder, or something impeding you from doing a little bit of an X-step, you're going to be forced to do a standstill approach. So for me, I want to be as consistent a player as possible. So I want to be proficient. I just do a standstill every time I can, from anywhere 350 and in. And that way, when the conditions aren't so favorable, I'm not out of my element. So when I'm doing a standstill approach shot with a disc like the Gatekeeper, my right foot is going to be at a 90-degree angle. My left foot is the only thing that changes, because if I need to ante and lean back, or I need to hyzer and lean over it, my left disc is going to help me contort the angle, but my right foot is always going to stay the same. I'm still doing the pullback. I still want that long fishing rod, and I can generate enough distance for this shot that I don't need to do any kind of X-step. By eliminating the X-step, I'm also eliminating those variables. What if you stub your foot? What if you tweak your ankle? What if you step on a rock? So by eliminating all of those variables that can happen in that X-step, I'm providing just a more consistent opportunity for me to throw my shot correctly. So I'm going to throw a few Gatekeeper shots from a standstill down to the practice basket. I'm going to have Dana record a couple shots for me so we can tell social media how much we love the Gatekeeper. The Westside Gatekeeper is the mid-range initiative Trilogy Challenge. The Speed 4, Glide 5. I love the Gatekeeper for standstill approach shots about 300 feet straight. Check out trilogychallenge.com to find it ready for you. Love the Gatekeeper. Windy. Let's try that again. We're going to keep this one a little bit lower. There's too many baskets down there. I don't know which one I want to go to. A little bit of swirling wind. I want to try to keep this one a little bit lower, prevent the wind from getting underneath it. It has a lot of glide. So, I need to practice, and if you're not familiar with the standstill approach, I have a great game that you can maybe use to practice and get a little bit more proficient at it. This is a game that maybe some of you guys have played before. some of you maybe have played it with me. This is a game called 3-2-1. And the way I like to play this game, now you can play this by yourself, you can play it with a friend, you can play it with a group, you can play in teams, doubles, lots of different ways to do it. I like to play 3-2-1, usually with 4 mid-ranges. So when the game starts, you're gonna pick a spot anywhere 250, 300, maybe 350 feet away from the basket. You're gonna throw all 4 of your mid-range shots and try to put it in the basket. For everyone that goes in, you get 3 points. If you hit the basket or metal, you get 2 points. After you throw your 4 and your friend throws their 4, you're gonna go down. Whichever one of those 8 discs is closest to the pole, that person gets 1 point. That's the CTP point. You're gonna play to 21. Whoever gets the most points on the first throw will then pick the spot for the second throw. And maybe for the second throw, you choose a spot a little bit closer or maybe a little bit farther away. You can choose a spot behind a bush, behind a tree, behind an obstacle. Play it any way that you want to get a lot of reps in. You can even come to a course like Fort Washington. If you're here during the day and it's not busy, you can play a whole round of 3-2-1. Just bring some mid-ranges. Go to the first hole, and maybe you don't play from the tee pad, pick a spot maybe halfway down the fairway, throw your 4 shots to one of the baskets. Then you go to hole 2. Maybe you play from the tee pad to the short basket. Then you pick a spot, play to the long basket. So you can get a lot of reps in a short period of time to really hone your skills and get comfortable with the standstill approach. So I'll throw a few more, see if I can get some 3-pointers. Great game you guys can play in your spare time. If you have a practice basket, take it out to a field. If you have enough space in the backyard, 3-2-1 is a great way to get a lot of reps in a short period of time. Get comfortable with that standstill approach. Speaking of games, I have another game we're going to play down by the basket, which is a great putting practice game. So we'll all head down to the basket now, and I'll show you that game next. Today, because putting, everybody putts different. You have to practice. It's the best way to get better at putting. Of all the top pros in disc golf, who's the best putter?
Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Paul.
Paul, I hear Paul and Ricky.
Yeah.
Not quite on the same level, but Paul and Ricky, good answers. For me, I think the best putter is not necessarily the guy who makes, 40 footers over and over again when he's practicing. For me, the best putter is who's going to make that 30 footer on the last hole of a big tournament. Or who's going to be 100% inside circle 1 on the final day coming down the stretch of a big event. So I think everything we do in golf is so situational. So the guys who are the most clutch putters, I think they're the best putters. Paul and Ricky, two are the best examples. What's interesting about Paul McBeth, sort of considered widely as the best disc golfer in the last decade for sure, one of the best putters for sure. No one putts like him. I mean, all these top guys, if you just see a silhouette of them putting, you can kind of identify who it is. None of them putt exactly the same. They don't have the same form, the same routine, so everybody does it a little bit differently. I'll just show you real quick kind of what I do. I am, of course, a right-handed player. When I'm putting, I like to have my right foot behind my mini, right in line with the pole of the basket. My left foot is going to be behind my right foot. We can envision an invisible line right from the pole through my mini or my disc, through the toe of my right foot, and my left heel is on that line. And then for me, I'm a push putter. So I kind of have a vertical motion, almost like a horseshoe, and I like to shift my weight from my left to my right. I bring my disc down kind of between my knees, and I miss, and I try it again. And I like to have a nice follow through with my right hand, shaking hands with the basket. Next, I want to introduce a quick putting game that everybody can certainly play when you're practicing. If you have a practice basket, you can play this in the backyard. You can come here and play it at the course, maybe before a round. I'm going to have Dan, can you film just a real quick clip of me introducing the Keystone? This is, of course, the putter produced at the Trilogy Challenge. And I wanted to introduce the Keystone by Lat64. This is the putter in this year's Trilogy Challenge. With a nice neutral to understable flight. I like the Keystone for circle's edge putting. Check out trilogychallenge.com to find an event near you. Get yourself a Latitude Keystone. So, when it comes to putting practice, I'm a big believer in a thing called bad practice. You can take a stack of discs, you can come out to a basket, and you can putt from 30 feet, and maybe for the first minute or two, you're kind of into it, but eventually you kind of lose focus, and that's just not good practice. That's not sharpening your putting skills to prepare you for a tournament round or a tag round or when it really counts. So, I have a game that I play, I'm going to introduce you guys to. It's called baseball. Maybe you've played it before. You may have played it with me. The way we play baseball is you're going to take 4 discs, and you're going to set up 4 different stations. If I can actually use some of this space where you guys are real quick, this will be our baseball field. I like the first station to be right about 20 feet. Because that's a distance where in a competitive round like a tournament, a Trilogy Challenge, or a tags round, that's the distance where if you miss that putt, that negative emotion can just fester and it's going to cause you strokes moving forward in the round. That's a putt you really want to make every time. So I like to practice the first station in baseball being about 20 feet. Second station, maybe 25 to 30. The third one a little bit farther than that, and the fourth one a little bit farther than that. So for our game, this is a single, this is a double, this is a triple, this is a home run. You can play this game by yourself, you can play with a friend, you can play in teams, you can do doubles. And the goal is to make putts and score runs. So I play this with Dana all the time. She kicks my butt. So the way we play baseball. So the first thing you want to determine is who's going to go first. Now, if you're playing subsequent games of baseball, usually the loser goes first in subsequent games. So it's just like in real baseball, the home team gets the bat last. That's the advantage. You get the bat at the bottom of the ninth. So for the first game, flip a disc, decide who goes first. Let's say I'm playing Dana and I'm going first. For my first shot, I can putt from any one of these stations that I want to. Let's say I want my leadoff hitter just to get on base. It'd be great to hit a double or a triple and be in scoring position, but I don't want to run the risk of getting that first out. So I want to go with a nice easy single for my first shot. Now I got a guy on first base with no outs. You can't shoot from the same station twice in a row. So now that I opted for the single on my first shot, and I made it, thankfully, I have to shoot from the double, the triple, or the home run next. Now, if I hit a double, I got guys on second and third. It wouldn't score that guy. If I go for the triple now, that's going to get that run home.
Bring him up, bring him up.
So that's he wants me to go for the triple or 2-run dinger. Now, if I miss, that's an out. 3 outs, your inning is over, and then your partner goes. That would be the bottom of the first. And so, quick fun game. You can change these distances. Sometimes when Dana and I will play, I'll throw from a couple feet behind the marker. She'll throw from a couple feet in front of it. I'm cool with that. Or if you're in a park or you're playing somewhere with a tree or a bush, you want to utilize that as an obstacle, put a station behind that obstacle, you can. You can do it any way you want. You can play 9 innings, 7 innings, you can play 5 innings. You can make the stations as hard or as easy as you want.
Play till you run out of putters.
So I recommend not using one putter. The more putters, the better. In fact, anybody who wants to is going to have a chance to play an inning of baseball. What I'd recommend is when you play this game, you want to have at least 3, 4, or 5 putters. And at the end of your inning, you want to go collect them and maybe just put them in a pile. When we play baseball now, and you guys, anybody who would like to try can come up and play an inning. If you have your own putters, you can certainly use them. I have a stack of different Trilogy putters. You're welcome to borrow if you'd like. But what we're going to do now is anybody who would like to try, you can come up and play 1 inning of baseball. Score as many runs as you can before you get 3 outs. If you score at least 1 run, you'll get a prize. We have a lot of stuff here donated from Westside Discs. So if you score at least one run, you're going to get a prize. And then anybody or the person who scores the most runs, there's also a grand prize in there for you. So, the way we're going to do this, we're going to go in random order. If you would like to try an inning of baseball, come around, just grab a ticket, and then I'm just going to pull out.